Tell me about the three young guys. What do you like about them if you've seen at this basis physically and mentally?
Well, I think we kind of have the guy that everyone talks about, the guy that is going to be as good as anybody, that nobody knows is any good yet, and then the guy that people probably say, well, he'll be a nice blend guy for you, and they're probably all pretty accurate in how I describe. He's everything is advertised in our eyes, and he's got a chance to be one of the elite players in the country as a freshman. Very competitive, tough-minded, still trying to figure it out, obviously, with just one weekend, but he has a chance to be one of the special freshmen the program's probably ever known. Udoka is better than advertised, but he's just so young. I mean, he's going to be terrific. He's just so young, and having a guy 6 years older than him teaching every day is definitely going to help him in Landon. And then Mitch is probably going to be as big a pleasant surprise as anybody because he's tough and he's athletic and he tries so hard. And I certainly see him having a chance to be in our rotation as a freshman. So, that's three pretty good freshmen, but certainly Josh, will have the biggest impact.
Josh said he's about 60 or 70% along the way in terms of reworking his shot. Would that be where you put him in terms of reworking his shot?
I don't look at it that way at all. I get such a kick out of kids when they come up with numbers and that kind of stuff. But Josh doesn't need anybody coaching him about his shot. He's been in a situation where every coach he's had probably in his life over the last 3 years have told him, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that with your shot. And all that does is hurt you. And so we've told him one thing, basically, and we're going to have one voice talking to him about it. And I like his shot. To me, it's a little bit different getting to the setting it before he shoots it, but once he gets there, it's as good as anybody else's. And so I like his shot. It's soft, and certainly he has improved it. But that's going to be the question on him by a lot of people is, can he be consistent? But I think he's mechanically sound enough that he can be consistent.
Josh just talked about this team going 40-0. Have you talked to him about trying to manage those type of expectations?
Who said that?
Josh.
There you go again. You know what? I think this is a great point. We don't talk like that, okay? But and also young kids haven't been through it enough. They don't know how hard it is to win at Ames. They don't know how hard it is to win in Morgantown or Manhattan and the other places, without question. But I will say this: I really think that this team's goal should be, when they play that night, their goal is to win every game. I don't think that's an unrealistic goal to try to win every game. Now, the reality of it is being good every night, when you have to be good every night at other places that are tough to play and have really good teams, that remains to be seen if we can do that. But I think it is. I think it could be a goal that on the night that we play to be the better team that night. But I think making a bold prediction. I don't think you made that prediction. I think that was a goal, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with goals. That's good. But I don't think that would be a realistic prediction, though.
Bill, along those lines, how much do you think about the mix of having a veteran presence but having your younger guys be maybe your most talented guys, and why is that something you've thought is special in the past? What works about that?
Well, usually, it doesn't always happen this way because, we went to the national championship game in 12 with a bunch of veterans. So it doesn't always happen this way, but usually if you look at perennial top 5 type teams, not necessarily national championship teams, because Jay's team won it last year with some vets. But usually your foundation is your older kids, but your most talented players are your younger ones. And that was even the way it was when we won our national championship in 08. You had 5 great seniors, and you had Mario and Brandon as juniors. But you can make a case Sharon and Shady may have been our 2 most talented guys in our program at that time. But everybody was so good on that team, they kind of took traded turns being who was the best that night. But I do think having old guys that can teach young guys, having talented guys that the young guys all respect, but then having kind of an unknown X factor that could rise to the level and take your team maybe to a place that it wasn't capable of going the year before are the best combination. And we certainly have that, I believe, with Josh and maybe by the end of the season with Udoka, and then certainly with Frank and Landon and Devontae and those guys. It's a pretty experienced team.
Is it too early still to tell how that all blends basketball wise?
I think they like each other. I think they share it pretty good. Losing Wayne. Wayne. I said this yesterday. We're going to lose. We're going to miss Perry. There's no question about that. Perry was Mr. Consistency. But if you go back and look at it, we watch highlights and all these things. Hey, there's a lot of games. We're down 6 with 5 minutes left, and Wayne makes plays. You look at the Kentucky game last year, and he made some big plays in Oklahoma. Florida the year before, he puts us on his back and wins that game for us. There's been a lot of games where Wayne was by far the best player in the game, and we're going to miss that without question. So we're going to miss two key starters and of course some depth behind that. But I do think the pieces have potential to fit. Last year the pieces fit as well as they could fit, in my opinion. And we still came up short, but the pieces fit great. This year, if the pieces fit as well, then I think you may have a little bit more talented group that may give you a chance maybe to play better when it counts the most. But certainly it remains to be seen if the pieces can get there yet.
Front court, a little bigger mystery than the back court in terms of.
Oh yeah. It may not be. It may not be because you can play 4 guards. With Josh and LeGerald and Svi, you're big enough to play them at the, 2 of those 3 at the 3 and the 4. So it's not as much of a mystery if you're just going to play 1 big, but if you're going to play 2 bigs, Landon, Carlton, Udoka, those would be the 3 that you would think obviously would be your 3 guys in your rotation, and then kind of wait to see on Mitch or Dwight who would kind of fill in as your 4th big. But I see us playing small quite a bit. So, and it's really not small. Josh is 6'8", and we're not going to play him as a forward. We're going to still play him as a guard, but I think we'd be a hard team to guard if you can spread the floor with those 4 guards out there.
Is that more common today's college game than it's ever been?
I think the game's getting smaller. It used to be 4s want to be 3s. Well, they still do, but coaches are making 3s 4s, which if you think about it, it's really smart, because now if the other team plays big, if you got a 3-man playing the 4 spot, that puts a big guy guarding him, and if he can shoot, it's a hard matchup. They talk about it all the time. Stretch 4s are really make teams hard to guard. We've always been a conventional 3-out, 2-in team, but I think this year we're going to get away from that a little bit.
Is that somewhere you've wanted to go, or is it just personnel dictating?
Yeah, personnel dictate. I don't know that I would. I think it'd be great to play 2 7-footers and one of them be a guard. One of them can really shoot. So that's the way I really want to go. But we don't quite have that luxury this year to do that.
Do you like that as a challenge, coaching wise, to be able to, like you said, you got a guy that's 6'8" and Josh Jackson playing the guard versus a power forward position? Like, do you like that as a coaching challenge matchup when you look at the different teams and how you're going to go about facing them?
I do. The way I look at our guys, though, I don't look at 1, 2s, and 3s. I look at guards, and I don't look at 4s and 5s. I look at bigs. Now, so if we play 4 guards, I look at 4 guards and 1 big. I won't look at moving Josh to a big spot. So, but there are some things that you can do to posting and things like that I think would be advantageous that we haven't done a ton of in the past, because we've always had 2 big guys that played pretty close to the basket. So I think that'll be challenging, and that's something we have not figured out yet as a staff on how we want to do that. We will do it, but we're still trying to tinker with what mode we want to play to make it where it's easy for our guys, so we don't have to change how we play and don't have to make them think.
So do you have an idea, let's say, if you had a game tomorrow, who your starting 5 would be?
Oh yeah. Sure, I have, you know, Frank's got a good chance to start. Devontae's probably a little bit ahead. But you would think Landon and Carlton and Josh to go along with them. But you know, it's still early, and LeGerald Vick is putting pressure on everybody because he's played so well.
Do you, I know there's turnover every offseason, but do you, as a coach, ever look at things in terms of national championship windows? And do you kind of get that sense that this is maybe the final year of a great window that you have with the core that you have?
No, I used to think that way. I don't think that way here anymore. Because, you know, when we lost Marcus and Markeith and Brady and Tyrell and Selby and you know, we lost our window and we went to the finals the next year. So I don't think you think like that at certain places. And I think the goal is every year to be in the game, to have a chance to do that. And so last year I probably didn't know if our window was such where we could be in the game, and we were. This year, I'll be disappointed if we're not in the game, but no matter who we lose after this year, I'll be disappointed next year if we're not in the game too. So I don't quite look at it that way.
Throughout basketball history, you see some big men stunt their own development by trying to prove their guard. And
Yeah.
they can do everything. Do you like that Udoka doesn't seem to be that type of a guy?
Well, I can promise you, Udoka will not try to be a guard. That is a given. You make it, write it down. He is his skill set will get better as he gets older, but he knows exactly who he is. And even though he'll play away from the basket some, that's not where that's not where he's going to make a living, so to speak. He's going to get close to the basket. So, you know, Landon's the same way. Landon knows who he is. Udoka knows who he is, and it is nice to have a couple of bigs that don't feel like they have to show everybody what they can do away from the basket. Because in their mind they feel like that's maybe what the NBA people want to see. Udoka, the NBA people, is going to want to see what he can do close to the basket.
Udoka has a background in soccer like Embiid. He said he thinks that might have helped him with his footwork. Do you see any kind of parallels with that?
I see parallels of kids that play soccer having better footwork. I don't comparing anybody to Joel because I don't think anybody here really knows how good he is. I mean, he's comical how good he is, or how good he was, and hopefully if he stays healthy this year, you'll see it in the NBA. But there are some similarities. You know, if I'm not mistaken, Udoka's 3 years younger than Joe was when Joe was here. So, you know, when you're trying to project out where will Udoka be 3 years from now, you know, that remains to be seen. He'll never be as skilled as Joe, and I would have said at the time, but he may end up being bigger and stronger than Joe. But you look at Joe now he's 7'2", 260 pounds. But I do think Udoka has a chance to be a dominant collegian. But you know, it's not going to happen immediately though.
Took a little while
Yeah,
for
knock on wood, Bill, but since Joe, how good has your team health been? It seems like it's been pretty good again.
Yeah, you know, we you know, even when you know, we've had some rough stretches where it's probably cost us. We had 2 years in a row where he lost Joe, who in my opinion was without question the best big man in the country. And then the next year, even though he tried to play, Perry was at 50%, and we had to have Perry to score the ball. So we had 2 years where we took had maybe some misfortune. But if you look back over time, I mean, when Langford went down last game of regular season, that kind of destroyed that team. We've had some things that have been unfortunate, but for the most part, I'm not gonna, you know, knock on wood. I think our health over time has been pretty good, and certainly you brought up a good point. I'm trying to think. You know, last year we had maybe a few starters miss games, maybe a few the year before, but for the most part we've been healthy. And you know, we won a few leagues in a row, and that plays a big role in it. You know, when Blake Griffin gets a concussion, is out 3 games. You know, we haven't had to deal with that quite as much, with the exception of Joel. So we've been pretty fortunate in that regard.
It took a little while for Lucas to settle in last year, you know, to that starting line, and we finished that out. when you talk about this year's possible or likely starting lineup, how far ahead does that put you if that's how it does play out? I mean,
Yeah, it may put you ahead early in the season, but I'm not sure that knowing who you're gonna start now helps you win games in February. Maybe it does, I don't know. I think establishing roles early is positive. But, you know, sometimes you want there to be changes in your starting lineup. Sometimes you want to make the young kid earn it, and then, you know, once he earns it and plays to his potential, you want him to actually outplay somebody. You know, so I think sometimes changes in your starting lineup is good for your team. And then you gotta figure out who's better coming off the bench. You gotta figure out, you know, whose ego allows you to do certain things. I'd say going in when you're having Indiana and Duke right off the bat, that if we're able to stay healthy, you know, having those guys pretty much know what their role will be going in, I think is probably a positive.
Landon talks a lot about the angles and the little things that he likes to do well. Is it atypical to have a guy who takes so much pride in things like angles or sealing a guy off?
I think Landon has figured out that's how he plays. So I think it's good that he takes pride in it, because he probably wouldn't play as much as if he didn't. But to go a step further than that, Landon Lucas can impact more possessions positively that nobody will see other than coaches or teammates, because he's very, very bright. He's one of the smarter players we've had come through here, and he takes great pride in little things. You know, whether it be a late clock play, he just knows, go set a fade screen for a shooter in the corner. I mean, it's just the certain things that he's able. Why would I post? They don't have time to swing and get it to me. So at late clock, I know I can go get somebody a shot off a fade. So he does little things like that you only get to, you try to teach that, but it's really something you learn over time, and he's kind of figured it out.
Is that something you're hoping he passes on to Udoka?
You know what, I don't know if I really hope that. I think with Udoka, it's a little bit different. I think there's the ball, go get it. You know, here's the ball, score it. Because he's different. They're a totally different skill set than Landon. But what Landon's been so good with him is trying to teach him the very basic principles we have to give him a chance to be successful. And if he can teach it to him, then he'll be playing instead of thinking. Right now, he's thinking instead of playing. So that Landon will speed up that process for him. But they're totally different. Totally different.
A couple of years ago, you were pretty critical of how much transferring is going on in college basketball, and I think we're at something like 600 kids transferring this year.
Yeah, are you sure on that number? I thought it was 800.
It might be 1,000 by now.
Because I thought it was 800. But
I mean, are we at a tipping point where something has to change, that this is really starting to affect college basketball?
Well, it's affecting college basketball. There's a lot of things with transferring that's positive. You know, such as you know, if a youngster wants to play and it's not set up for him to play at that place, sometimes a change of scenery is good. Sometimes you have a different academic program you want to pursue. Sometimes change of scenery is good. You know, if there's health issues with a family member closer to home, sometimes a change of scenery is good. There's a lot of things like that. But what has become so negative isn't coaches running off players. What's become negative is that whenever things don't go the way you have it scripted in your mind, the first thing you want to do is, a lot of times, is switch locations, because that will solve the problem. It's the same principle. You're enrolled in a hard class, and you take your first test, and you do poorly on your first test. Well, the first thing you want to do is drop the class, as opposed to meeting with the teacher. Okay, how do I make this up? And know you got to grind. And I think there's so much impatience out there, because we're an immediate satisfaction society right now, that you know, sometimes players don't understand that the grind is actually what may make them as a player and what may make them as a person over time. So I do think it's a big time problem in college basketball. I think it's a problem in college athletics, but I also think it's a societal problem, because how many kids now, if you don't play on your high school team, what's the first thing you do? You switch schools. You know, if you don't like the offense at your quarterback and your second string, and a sophomore beats you out and you're a junior, what do? You go to another school. I'm not gonna back up a sophomore for 2 years, or an underclassman for 2 years. So it's not just basketball, it's a way that kind of the things have come up, and so it is a problem, and certainly in basketball, with the fifth-year senior situation becoming, the graduate transfer becoming eligible immediately. We benefited from that with Tariq, obviously, but you know, 100% of all coaches would say that's a very, very bad rule, because it puts you in a position where, depending on your situation, where you could actually look to recruit kids off somebody else's campus. And it's that per se is not legal, but through third parties or whatnot, obviously there can be contact made and things like that. So there's some negative things going on. It's still a great game and everything, but that's something that we have to tighten up. But I don't know if there's an answer for that, because you look at it, you go to Kansas and you're a beta, and you don't like it, what do? Switch schools. I mean, it's not just an athletic situation. It's a, you know, it's a campus situation, but we'd like for it to be tightened up where there's less transfers, and hopefully that'll be the case. But I don't know if there's an immediate answer for that.